In the heart of the state-of-the-art, at the dawn of the next stage in entertainment, you found No Proscenium.
You have indeed found No Proscenium, the voice of everything immersive. I'm your host, Noah Nelson, and welcome to episode 419 of our ongoing exploration of the immersive cosmos. This week on the show, we're joined by co-founder and senior creative director of Meow Wolf, Caity Kennedy, senior art director of Mighty Coconut, Don Carson, and returning guest Lucas Martell, founder of Mighty Coconut and creator of Walkabout Mini Golf, aka NoPro's favorite social VR game. Why? Because of the recently released Walkabout Meow Wolf expansion, silly! It's the Reese's Peanut Butter Cups of VR experiences that takes two great things, Walkabout Mini Golf and Meow Wolf's Numina space from their Denver exhibition, and turns it into something wholly unique, which brings out the best in both teams' work. Or if you're allergic to peanut butter, it's those graham crackers they give to you on Southwest Airlines during the morning flights. Man, those are delicious. Why can't we get them the rest of the time? I don't want generic snack mix. Southwest, bring on the grams. This one is a fun one, but before we get into that, a little business. As of today, the only way to become a new subscriber to the NoPro newsletter is to become a Patreon backer. We flipped the switch on the MailChimp to off yesterday and turned it on for our new publishing platform, Ghost, where we will be moving the whole of the website in 2024. A lot of work on that. I might even ask people for help. What? More on all that in the back matter. But if you are a subscriber to the newsletter or a Patreon backer, you should have received a welcome note in your email on Thursday at around 11 a.m. West Coast time, 10:58 a.m. to be exact. If you haven't, check your promotions tab and your spam folder to see if it went there instead. One of you did write me saying you hadn't gotten it yet, and it definitely went out. It's probably sitting in your spam. I know a good chunk of subscribers did open, actually about on par with our usual open rate, which is quite good. But there are plenty who didn't. So please check that email. We want to know you're getting it, or you want to know that you're still signed up, right? If you're listening to the show for the first time, or the first time in a while, none of that made sense to you. But if you're thinking, oh hey, there's a newsletter, and oh, what's this? There's a Discord. Well, the way to get into those going forward is to go to patreon.com/noproscenium and become a paid member, aka a backer over there. And right now we could really use the help, because thanks to layoffs in the tech sector, we lost one of our sustaining backers, a dear friend. And I was like, please pull the plug. I can't let you do this while you're you lost your job. Quit giving me money. Just like, no, you're not going to lose your place because, no. So we need 10 $5 a month backers to make up for that loss, right? This is sort of how it works with the sustaining backers. So we need more people to come in at a smaller rate to kind of get the net going. You can tell just from the sound of my voice and how like I've fallen off script that like I don't love this part, but this is the way I survive. And honestly, if everyone who regularly opened the newsletter joined to the $5 level, oh my goodness, I could just shut up about this on the podcast for ages, if not forever. With that, let's take a moment to celebrate our latest backers, two folks who are getting us closer to that day, to that glorious day when I no longer talk about this. And those are Joseph Robinson and Vincent Lin. Thank you both. You're keeping us going. We are edging closer to the 450 backer milestone we want to hit before the end of the year. If we can do a push to get those $5 backers, maybe we will hit that milestone. Everything will be hunky-dory, at least in this vertical. As always, big thanks to those sustaining backers who are able to stick around. Samuel Mustry, Chris Woolman, Samantha Davison, Eric Shamlin, Elaine, Daryl, John Boulette, Cameo Wood, Jay Bushman, Jerome Joseph Gentis, Kurt Collins, Ryan, David Bassick, Richard Ayers, Lonnie Hands-On, Lecker LaCool, The Ministry of Peculiarities, and Jan Budman. And hey, thanks to Catherine Yu for raising her pledge a bit to help offset some of it as well. I want to acknowledge that. Catherine threw on an extra $10 a month. Catherine, as you know, former executive editor of NoPro, current VR developer, still a member of the house team over on the Institute when we're doing our events and our other programming. The person who I bounce so many ideas off of and who bounces ideas off of me, and who honestly, NoPro would not be NoPro without Catherine. And she also throws money at it. So, amazing. Thank you. And if maybe money isn't a thing you can't throw, but you're like, hey, there's this really dedicated community and I'm doing a thing, and why don't we make a deal? We're always on the lookout for community partners who are up for working out special deals for our backers. Whatever you might have, beta testing, preview nights, discounts off tickets, discounts off, escape rooms in a box. There's all sorts of things. Hit me up at noah@noproscenium.com and we'll hash it out. We'll get something going on. There we go. All right. With that, let's get into this week's interview, which is just a lot of fun and lovely. And if you haven't already, and you have a headset, go pick up Walkabout Mini Golf and pick up the Meow Wolf expansion. It's on every kind of headset. So if you got one, go for it. And then let us know, because come January, we're going to do a tourney. That's right. We're going to do a tourney in Meow Wolf. More on that on the backside. I'm literally just deciding this. Hopefully, just let's go. If you've been around NoPro for a while, you know we are big fans of Walkabout Mini Golf. Why, in more than one universe, we've said it's pretty much the best thing you can play if you own a Quest device. This month, Walkabout gets quantumly entangled with another NoPro favorite, Meow Wolf, the Santa Fe, New Mexico-based immersive arts experience company that has been growing its legendarium since 2008 and now has outposts in Las Vegas, Denver, and outside Dallas, Texas, along with its original Santa Fe location. Joining us now in the virtual studio is Caity Kennedy, co-founder and senior creative director of Meow Wolf, Mighty Coconut's senior art director Don Carson, and returning to the show, Lucas Martell, creator of Walkabout Mini Golf and founder of Mighty Coconut. First off, hello, Lucas. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Don, good to have you on the show.
Hi, Noah. Good to be here.
And Caity, very, very happy to get to have you on the show.
Happy to be here. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I think there was at one point a plan. There was a scheme. I think we were hoping we couldn't pull it together, but to get y'all out for when we did the next stage and do a version of this in person long ago. It became a different session. But I am now very excited, particularly because I just got to play it last night and did 18 holes, and oh boy, I have questions. With Caity and Don on the show, I think we're going to get into a lot about how the art style of Meow Wolf and the style of Walkabout are in conversation here. Got a lot of questions about that. But before we do that, Lucas, could you give us the lowdown on what this latest course expansion is?
Yeah, so this latest course, Meow Wolf, it's essentially we have taken one of the real life Meow Wolf locations and reimagined it. It's not a one-to-one copy. We've gotten to do a lot of things that couldn't be done in the real Meow Wolf, but it's also because it follows our art style for technical reasons. And it has mini golf. So there's a lot of things where we've kind of taken Meow Wolf and injected some of the gameplay things that we need into the Walkabout universe. So yeah, it's a really, really interesting mashup, and it's been fantastic to collaborate with everyone at Meow Wolf, but especially Caity, because Caity was right alongside us, pretty much modeling, working, in VR alongside us and helping kind of craft the level. So it's the first time that we've ever done that with sort of an outside collaborator. And it was a blast to work on.
Oh wow, I'm gonna have a lot of questions about that process, particularly because as folks know, Meow Wolf, collaboration is a key component of your ethos and what you do. I was just at LDI in Vegas, and there was a session about artist collaborations and how those work. That was what some of the folks were talking about. So Caity, I'm hoping to start with you here. Meow Wolf is no stranger to embracing tech. That's known to everyone who's been to a Meow Wolf. But if I'm reading the tea leaves here, this is either the first time or at least the largest scale in terms of distribution that y'all have brought one of your existing spaces into an existing virtual framework. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So why, when the possibility of doing uh, Walkabout came up, when that was burbled up, and maybe we'll get into how the hell that happened in the first place. But why did you wind up choosing Numina? Why an adaptation? Why not do something original? Why this challenge of, hey, we've got this space, like we want to bring this one to life. We want to adapt this.
Well, one of the main reasons, there are many, but one of the main reasons is that I was going to work on it, and not really anybody else from Meow Wolf was going to be available to work on it. So essentially, we got to build off of the like thousands of hours of collaboration that Meow Wolf artists already got to do together, and bring in new collaborators into that existing collaboration to expand it into virtual reality. So, like, even though I'm a co-founder, I am one of so many voices at Meow Wolf that I wouldn't have been super comfortable calling it Meow Wolf with only one of me
Mm.
involved, you know? But having all of these voices, hundreds of voices involved in the source material that we were then able to like take and make into Numina Mini Golf, meant that really we got to be in collaboration with them as well. So, oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you.
Um, well, and then I was a creative director of Numina, so I know it intimately, and a good deal of it came from my uh, impulses to draw green wiggly lines. Um, so it also wasn't just a Meow Wolf thing that I could lead, but it was a Meow Wolf thing that I've already led, and know very, very intimately, know who made what and who to ask about. If your creature was in VR, like, how would you like it portrayed, or like, how do you like this portrayal? For example. Uh, but also, Numina is a character unto itself. It's not just a world to try and recreate. So, as artists, making things multiple times is really common. It's a really beautiful way to keep exploring an idea. But as storytellers, expanding Numina into a digital space made perfect sense, because Numina is only really here because it's interested in learning, and it's in Denver because it's interested in learning about us. So why wouldn't it also expand into this handy medium through us to play games with us?
That's really fun, and I've got questions about like some of the creatures and bringing actually coming around to that. Don, I want to loop you in here because Numina is probably not even probably Numina is definitely my favorite space in Convergence Station, other than the the room that has like all the musical instruments that are going off, and just getting to sit in there and go to loop on that. Like those are my jams. But like I feel like I could spend far more time than I already have, just like kind of wandering around Numina and finding nooks and crannies. But the space is, it's big installation art pieces. It is objects. It is statuary of characters, and a, a walkabout course is a pulsing, living, breathing, lots of characters. I feel like this one feels like it has even like more characters doing things than I've seen in a walkabout before. And I'm going to cop to the fact that I haven't been on every course, but that's probably mostly because I'm playing Labyrinth every time I go in, or was playing Labyrinth every time I go in until now. Now I've got too many options. What was the challenge here? What was your approach of trying to bring to animation this space that is visually dynamic in a really intense way, but isn't moving? How to this is a giant ass question. Like, how balancing that, animating the characters. Just go off, King.
Well, I can talk a little bit about our process. Unlike our other IP relationships or partnerships, where we were doing our very best to represent, the IP, we were looking to Meow Wolf as a collaboration partner. Artists talking to artists, and we had talked about doing Numina. And when Lucas and I last a year ago, August, went to Denver to meet with Caity in the space, it had been referred to as a swamp in light conversation. And as soon as we walked in, Caity said, by the way, Numina is a 6-dimensional living creature that is communicating us through the environment. Our response was like, there's a whole lot to learn about this space. And so we kind of approached it, or I did it at the very least, like a biologist sketch artist.
Oh.
And I just sort of like, okay, I'm on another planet and I need to understand what grows here, what the life is like, how it all works. So my initial sketches were all just trying to have fodder that I could show Caity and go, is this what we're doing? Is this how we're working? And then a lot of it too was just to be an available student to make sure that we represented it, the way that it was meant to be represented. The one other facet was when we first met Caity in Denver, we said, let's ask the question, what can we do that we can't do in the physical world? Having come from the theme park world, I could see, OSHA and ADA requirements determines that handrails and things have to happen, and exit signs, all things that we as humans have been able to sort of edit out when we go. But in the digital realm, we can do anything. And the one thing for me that was like the tipping point was that Caity pointed out that the floor in the Denver exhibit space has an incredibly beautiful sort of magical water surface on the concrete walkway. And she said this represents that Numina continues under the water. And I said, well, let's do that. let's in this virtual space, let's go underwater. And so if you can think of the Denver space as a dome space, roughly, conceptually, the walkabout space is the other half of the sphere, so that you're exploring not only above the water, but below the water. And that was where we started. And so we evolved from that point.
I love that you brought that up, because and there is those theme park elements of, as you're progressing through the first couple of holes, you notice that there's a hole under the water, and it's like, is this a reflection, or are we going to go there? And I feel like with this one, there's just more rules of reality and physics are being broken on the regular in this one than any of the other ones I've played so far. I know, like Upside Downtown, which is another course, like plays around with some of those dynamics, but there are things that happen in this that I remember. I think some of my exclamations were like, "Oh, ha, what? Oh my God!" And then lots of giggling. A fair amount of giggling through. So for those who haven't played, we're probably gonna spoil a few things. So I recommend right now, like, take your cans off, go play 18, and then come back. Because I do want to ask about, this idea of trying to get to the heart of like Meow Wolf's multiversal narrative conceit, and you don't just lightly touch on that. It feels like you just plunge your hands right in. between Don and Caity, I wonder if you could talk a little about making those choices even at times to like break the set on Numina and push us out of Numina for a minute to go to a different part of the multiverse before snapping us back in. Caity, go for it.
So there were so many questions in that question. It's kind of hard.
I know it's sorry. It's just it's
One of
early
the-
morning.
It's
Yeah.
rich. It's great.
Yeah.
The first thing I want to say was that it was a like absolute joy, both in a kind of like mischievous way and in just genuine excitement for what we were going to do, to be met with so much enthusiasm and flexibility with like all of the ideas that I brought that I had no idea what was feasible in virtual reality, and everything that the Walkabout team brought to the table in terms of ideas or in terms of like bouncing the things back and forth and making them even crazier. The Walkabout team was so perfectly happy to break all their own rules because this seemed like the situation to do so. And it was really fun to play with that piece of the tools, the tool of rule breaking as an experiential tool, especially for people who are familiar with Walkabout. Of
Yeah.
like, you have expectations that you're going to be in a whole nother world. It's going to be like, what are you going to learn this time? And then you get used to it, and then you get deeper into the puzzles. But this time it's like, nope, we're just going to throw random puzzles at you. We're just going to like, actually, this one's not a puzzle. It's just kind of luck. Like, just really
Yeah.
messing with the medium just enough to, yeah, make the player be like, what is happening? But be giggling while it's happening. Like that was such a wonderful foundation to work on, that it made for a lot of really fun ideas came out of that.
It feels like, and maybe this is because like it was the end of a long difficult day and I had already been like overloaded by being in Las Vegas and going behind the scenes at the Las Vegas Sphere and seeing the most complicated building I've ever seen in my life and all these things. But like I came out of the 18 thinking that this was kind of like almost like the distillation of both the spirit of Meow Wolf and the spirit of Walkabout. Like this is like kind of both of you at your most you in terms of playing with reality and messing with people, but also still like, but you see, look what mini golf could be if we just didn't have these pesky physics to keep us down. And so I didn't necessarily expect for it to be so much both of you so loudly in a good way.
Yeah. Well, I would also say that I remember right after we left Numina with Caity, we actually had another meeting where we just went and talked about some of the gameplay mechanics that we wanted to play with and what happens with this. And I think we settled on that like from the very beginning of the idea that we needed the gameplay to also be unexpected and give people that realm of like, oh, I feel like I'm getting a handle on what's happening here. And as soon as you give people one or two holes where it feels like they're getting their footing, you got to do something that really yanks the rug out from under them, because this is definitely a course unlike most others where that first playthrough, it's more of an experience than it is going for pure skill. I will say though that Caity, you mentioned that we broke a lot of our own rules. We definitely did we broke a lot of rules that we had. However, a couple of things that we held on to was that it's still a linear path through, which, having literally just been at House of Eternal Return yesterday, is something very different than Meow Wolf. Like, all of the things connect and you can find multiple paths through. But because of the nature of mini golf, we needed to kind of craft this linear path that took you along a very specific, I hesitate to say the word narrative, but that's something that we kind of felt that we really needed to hold on to. The other aspect of it is that once you've done your first playthrough, we've been focusing even more recently, like really leading up to the release of this course, on making sure that the folks who are really into the mini golf aspect, that there is still a skill factor. And a lot of the mechanics are done in a way that it's not purely random, or there's some elements that you could use to your advantage, so that it is still something that people who are a bit more hardcore on the, or more competitive, can still go back and they can still perfect their scores. But I would also say, for people playing it the very first time, that's not what your first playthrough is going to be about. It's going to be about figuring out what's going on. And then if you want to go back and really sort of like hone in your skill shots, there's the opportunity to do that. But those were a couple of elements that we still hung on to that we felt were really important. But pretty much most of the other rules, yeah, we broke all of those.
Don.
Back to what you were saying about the collaboration. We would have been more than happy if Caity had said, this is the lore and these are the characters and these are the rules. But she continuously reminded us that we were part of those 1,000 people, and that she was just as willing to let us imprint our own identity as Walkabout and the artists that make up Walkabout. As an example, early on during our sort of throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what comes about, I did a sketch of a 2-headed worm creature. Just, like, that might be weird and fun. And then we said, what if you putted into its mouth? And then we asked, that'd be really great. And you came out the other end. But what if in its stomach there were these creatures that you startled and we're all playing a game of cards? And that kind of set the tone for every choice we made after that. It was like, if you can play through a giant 2-headed worm and find creatures playing cards in its stomach, then we really could literally do anything we wanted to do. And so that set the stage.
That moment is so spectacular. And if memory serves, that's also the first time we portal in the course. And portals are such an important part of like the Meow Wolf mythology. So Caity.
Meow Wolf learned really, really early that one of the best structures we could use is to like take an exhibit and break into a bunch of little parts where there are collaborative things and there are not so collaborative things. It works better for like the creative energy, for people to have a little bit more freedom in one place and a little bit more like it makes it easier to engage in the trials of collaboration where you need to, if you have a place where that's a little bit more your own. And you get a larger audience when you have a group show. Essentially, if you have a group show with 100 artists, you automatically have a crowd of 100 people at your opening. And if they bring anybody, then you've got this like wildly successful show. That was kind of our like party ethos early on, was like, if we all make stuff and we all like go to the party and we all bring a couple friends, then we have like an amazing party. So when you have hundreds of people involved, even if it's just for yourselves, it's this like wonderful collective experience even to view it, because you get to see everything everybody else made too. So we internally use the word flex rooms. It doesn't have a lot of meaning to the world. It's just our term for it. But so there are those 3 portals, which, by the way, are far more of a portal than in a physical Meow Wolf where you go through a door, that transport you to a flex space, a space that was, to varying degrees, a collaboration between really the Walkabout folks, or emergent of an idea one of the Walkabout folks had, because we like to work with, it's important that we work with local artists as Meow Wolf, and the local artists in this case were the Walkabout artists. So giving them space to kind of do whatever they want, especially I was pushing for like, do something that you know you would never build an entire course around. But you get to do something you would otherwise not get to do. Because very often in the real world, artists don't get to do immersive, permanent artwork. So it's an opportunity unlike you would get to do in the rest of your life. Like, what are you going to do with that?
That reminds me a little bit of the talk that I saw some of your folks at, and sadly, it's not in my brain who it was, but I know one was like a lead video person when it comes to collaborating with local artists. This idea that sometimes, you know, they haven't done immersive before, they haven't done something interactive, they're not used to working this form, and like, you know, how much Meow Wolf comes in to like support that, and maybe assigning other technicians or artists or creative technicians to like help them think about, well, what does this space sound like, because they might be a visual artist and they haven't done that before. A little bit on that note, I'm hoping that Caity and Don and Lucas too, like, talk about, you know, Caity, you picked up the VR tools to be sketching in here and working hand in hand alongside the Walkabout team. How did that part of the collaboration work?
Well, first of all, a beautiful, I don't know if it's a coincidence or just like, I don't know what other tools are out there. I worked in Gravity Sketch to design what, yeah, we were calling the swamp at that time. In the very early days of designing Numina, trying to draw it on paper was ridiculous, especially not trying to just like draw something that we already had in our minds, but like trying to figure out space in an extremely three-dimensional way. Did not work on paper. I tried a bunch of times. So importing a very simple white box model into Gravity Sketch and being able to just use blobby tools to create mass all over the space was a truly essential piece of designing the composition of Numina, and then refining it in Gravity Sketch, even like getting the twisting textures, a concept of them, not the like finished plan for what shapes, what exact wrinkles go where or anything, but really getting a concept level model was only possible in Gravity Sketch for me, because I'm not a 3D modeler, so I was able to go in and with something akin to a spray foam can and a spoon, but in virtual reality, just sketch this thing out. So it was really organic for me to be able to go in and talk to them, talk to Mighty Coconut in the language that they use. Although I am nowhere near the skill in any of these programs as the Mighty Coconut folks are, we were able to pass things back and forth and be like this, like this, like this, like this. And like super fun was going in and having what we called gardening sessions, where we took all the beautiful plants that the artists made and just started planting them. Being like, could we have this one in a different color? Like, that was really, really fun. And earlier than that, sorry, being able to go in and I like sculpted a big swath of the wall of the like twisting, what we call cat skin, because when I was looking for reference imagery for the walls in physical Numina, some of the best reference images were of chubby sphinx cats. Um, so it was really a natural process to explain the geometry of the cat skin by going in and making a swath of it, and then having Emma, one of their artists, build from there, and she just got it all effortlessly. I like practically didn't have to explain anything, especially because I didn't have to explain much of anything verbally. I could just be like, look, shapes.
Mm. And that makes a lot of sense. Like, it so retains the Meow Wolf maximalism. It so retains that sense of when you're inside the space, your eye doesn't necessarily know where to go, but then if you let yourself kind of adjust your focus just a little bit, loosen up a little bit, you're able to see the flow of the space. You're able to see where the textures, the background, and this is the, you know, the river / tongue of the creature as you're flowing through, and like watching where the light is going. Um, Don, I wonder, you know, you mentioned the two-headed worm creature. Um, what's another bit that you feel like, you know, you were really able to kind of like stretch out and get to play with in this particular space?
Well, I think Caity described it as Numina is attempting to speak to us very much like we would speak to a cat. And it doesn't know our language, so it's decided that the language it's going to speak to us in is miniature golf, but it doesn't actually know what miniature golf is. So it just starts throwing things at us. So there's flags everywhere that are clustered like bouquets, and those big arrow things just sort of are stuck in the ground, and those pulsating rings that determine where your ball is located, those are everywhere, along with this sort of iconic Numina sort of pantheon of plants and creatures. So that was something we really wanted to get across, even down to the fact that when you are standing in the traditional Welcome Island shack, when you fade to black and then appear in Numina, Numina is desperately attempting to just talk to you in the language it thinks you're familiar with by creating its own sort of floral version of the shack. That you actually have to turn around to start playing, because, okay, here, hi, I'm talking to you now in something I think you understand. And then from that point on, all bets are off, including the scale of the ball. That Indiana Jones boulder
That
moment
moment.
is, and it was one of those like, hey, we could do this. We must do this.
I was so it wasn't even like when it was huge and rolling down Indiana Jones style. It was then when it popped out and it was like now playable in a different form. I was just like, you lunatics, you did it, right? You know, like it was so. I'm gonna have so much fun watching my friends go through. Like, this is gonna be such a blast. Like, to the point where, like, someone I know is like just got a Quest 3. And is like a big, loves Meow Wolf, knows it, is like excited to play Meow Wolf. And I'm going to tell him, look, I need you to go in and play a couple of normal courses, and even like say, I need you to go play windmills. Like, I need you to go play windmills in particular. You need to go play some regular walkabout courses, and maybe pick up Labyrinth as well, because it's good, and like get a sort of sense. But before you do this, like, you won't even know how wild this is until you see what happens on the huge. Um, for Don, for you, and for Lucas, so much of what you've been doing, you know, and Lucas, we talked a lot about this when we talked Labyrinth, has been, you know, these sort of playable themed spaces, a lot of lessons learned from themed entertainment. And from theme parks. Here's, you know, Meow Wolf, which is sort of like, you know, the wacky children of the folks who like grew up, you know, with theme parks. It's like it's the next generation. Um, how do you feel like Walkabout itself is evolving, you know, as part of this? I could imagine that from this point, there's some more vistas that have opened up, and new ways of thinking about this space that you have, that you're always iterating on, and always trying new things in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely Meow Wolf, and this was one of the things that excited us the most, was that we knew that Meow Wolf in this course was going to push us in ways that we hadn't been before, and so it definitely was a huge growth for the team. I mean, this definitely, in terms of just like challenge of building this, was 3x, 4x, even 5x what a normal course would be, just because there were so many new mechanics. You mentioned earlier the kind of that Meow Wolf maximalist, which isn't always, but it's in a lot of the spaces within Meow Wolf. this is probably one of the physically smallest courses that we have done,
Mhm.
but it's also one of the most complex just because of the sheer density and the fact that you can see so much of the level at any given time, but it changes dramatically depending on where you're at and looking at stuff. So
Yeah, this
all
is
of
like the
that
one that I
was
had the most sense of space in, right?
Mhm.
Even though it's all
Yeah.
twisted and turned and like I didn't quite know, and like I'm going to, I mean, in the labyrinth, like a high degree of space, but that's like my memory of the movie kind of coming together. But
Right.
here it felt I felt surrounded in a
Yeah.
way that I haven't really before, and was embraced by this thing.
Yeah, and that was something that I mean, I think that also, Katie, you mentioned having built the actual physical Numina in Gravity Sketch. That was something that I think came right over in that sense that it's this very three-dimensional, very intersecting. You want it to there's only one or two spots where we kind of intentionally allowed to have a feeling like you're in a wider or a bigger space. A lot of the rest of it is like you actually want to sort of like break up the sight lines. You don't want to feel like this is a big empty cavern or something. You really want to sort of have things that block off your view. So even though you're in this same sort of, the shape of it is roughly a sphere, but within that, you kind of create spaces within that. So Kate, I think you wanted to add something to that.
Yeah, it's something that we learned on accident really early, is that you can make a small space seem practically undiscoverably infinite
Mm.
by making it labyrinthine. That which it's ironic that you say labyrinth has a large sense of space, because like it's the ultimate labyrinthine thing, an actual labyrinth. Um, but we started, with only a 2,000 square foot. Well, it was our second building, but our first one was only a couple of months, and we got kicked out because they didn't know what we were going to be doing to their space. But our first space that we had for a while was a 2,000 square foot warehouse, and we couldn't use the entire thing for shows. So shows were like 1,200 square feet, and there were these like massive, lot of people, a lot of different little rooms shows, and we would build all these little rooms, and people would like go see them, and we'd take the space down, and they'd see the space, and they'd be like, "What? Like, where's is there another building that I went into?" Like, just it's such a fabulous psychological trick to break the space up in such a way that you can't quite keep track of everywhere that you've been, to make it seem enormous, and also really encourage just like ongoing exploration.
Yeah, there's something about going into one of those labyrinthine, like kind of, you know, almost tesseract twisted spaces, and kind of going in again and again and again until you get the innate sense of the topography, like innate sense of like, this is how this space works. I know how to move through it. Like that in itself, at least for me, is a pleasurable experience of like, I have this mapped as if you could walk through a dreamscape over and over until you knew it like the back of your hand. You just know where the things are to reach out. And the inkling of that here is already starting to happen to me, right? Like there's some spaces where I deliberately are like, I don't know where I am in relation to everything else, and like, or like I don't know how to traverse in there. But that, if anything, is only going to make me go back. Like there was like once or twice I had to pull the trigger to like, I don't know where to find the tee off spot, so I'm gonna cheat and just like stat myself to the tee off spot. I'll figure out later, mostly because I had to get through last night. But instantly knowing like, okay, I'm going to figure out the connective tissue here. Um, and there are moments where in what you've done where the connective tissue like breaks set and breaks rules, like so aggressively at the beginning, just like, oh yeah, you thought that was that. No, like, and I'm gonna save. I'll boom her off. I'll say exactly what I want to save. Some spoilers for people who haven't played through yet, who just like, oh, I don't need to worry about that. They've already lost the two-headed worm, which is a spectacular reveal. So I'll save something else for them. Um, that led me to the end of a rope. Don, I want to ask you about the Walkabout side of merging the aesthetics, because Walkabout has like a really really clear aesthetic, and I think one of the things that was delightful about Labyrinth was watching like this kind of like sharp angled intersection of those two, because like, those fully realized puppets in the Walkabout polygonal aesthetic this uses that aesthetic in a different way. Like there's some, I don't want to say evolution, but like this feels a lot more like the two styles talking to each other.
Well, definitely our aesthetic is dictated to us by the
Technology.
limitations of the
Yeah.
technology. When we were talking about the unveiling and the progression of moving through the space, I think it's because Mighty Coconut comes from a filmmaking world first, as opposed to a exclusively game or theme park design world. And so even Labyrinth, although it seems like it's spread out, each of those environments unveils or reveals itself as you move through the labyrinth. And we tried to do the same thing with Meow Wolf, so that we really leverage the loved characters you want to see now animating, so that, oh, there's something I want to go to and interact with. Oh, that also happens to be where the next hole is. And so even though it does sometimes, we get lost in it, that it feels like it's just unfathomable. We have made design choices that make you want to go meet this next creature or turn that next corner, whether or not it's visually or your ball just went there. So I'm following my ball to that location. Aesthetically, we have a ceiling of how many polys we can use. And we were internally really worried about the amount of plants that we were going to be including. And Caity brought up Emma, and we can't bring her up enough. She lived inside that space in Gravity Sketch for months and lovingly created those plants so that we could get as much in there as possible. And even then, when we handed it to our tech crew, it was like, here, make this run on everything. It was a lot of sleepless nights as we were dedicated to delivering upon the feel you have when you go into the physical space, but within the very, very strict limitations of what we can and cannot do. And we do have lots of tricks that we use where we hide things, that we turn things off that you can't see.
Right.
And Numina, you can kind of see everything all the time. So there was a lot of tricks that had to happen with that space that allowed you to constantly feel like you were in that rich, colorful jungle. Yeah. So
I want to add one thing to that too, because I know that Caity, I've heard you talk a bit about how that polygonal style almost comes across as like impressionism a little bit. It's almost sort of like 3D pointillism a little bit. And I think that in this particular case, because especially the look of the cat skin itself is so unique and such it's something that you have not seen in the real world at all. I feel like there was some specificity in that is probably what you're picking up, Noah, with that art style, feeling like it's a bit more of of kind of the hybrid offspring a little bit, just because we were trying to copy more stylistic things that they were doing less. And there's very, very little architecture in this course, unlike some of our other courses. So I think that was probably a big aspect of that as well.
My last question here, I'm gonna toss to Caity, because we've talked a bit about what sort of the rules breaking that has happened by bringing Meow Wolf into Walkabout. Caity, are there things from this experience that you're now, as you're thinking about Meow Wolf's future physical projects, that they're starting to sort of seep into how you're looking at what Meow Wolf does, in the real world with physical bits?
There are two main things that this experience is, that I'm hoping to take forward from this into exhibits. One is, and kind of already knew this, but this is just a lovely prove out of finding the right partners to work with. It means everything. It's one thing to be like trying to support lots and lots of artists and trying to do a lot for a lot of people, but when you're trying to work with another company and another team, like it was just so essential that we had, decently matching sense of humor, or it's like there's so many ways that working with Walkabout worked really well, not just because of the idea, the two ideas working well together, but because the teams worked really well together. Like working with the Walkabout team was so organic and so nice. Um, so I intend to try and articulate why it was nice. And I'm sure y'all would love to hear about that too. But like internally, it'd be like, hey, this is the sort of stuff that we need to look for. Like, what are some ways that we can try and identify some of these, like, look for these good qualities earlier, or look for, like, figure out how they might be missing early in identifying partners, because we have to
Hmm.
work with a lot of different companies and vendors, and you know, it I can't overstate the importance of starting on the same in the same book, so you can even find the same page. You know, so that's a little bit of an abstracted answer, but the a kind of opposite category of answer that maybe a little bit more, a little bit less niche, is I've been, even as someone who doesn't work a lot digitally, I've been dreaming for a really long time, as I know a lot of our people here have, about being able to include more mediums in our exhibits. And as someone who used to be, um, in the middle of a really wild open door art collective, I miss parts, not all parts, but a lot of parts of that open door. And I've dreamed for a while, and right now this is still just a dream, but I think that this reinforces the possible beautiful outcomes that we could find with this dream of, like, finding ways to let people kind of build Meow Wolf exhibits together virtually, where
Hmm.
anybody could build a room and you go through a portal and you're in somebody else's room. And um, I don't know, I see a lot of potential for threading together physical and virtual exhibits in a way that amplifies both, that makes it so that people around the world can make things, people around the world can visit things. Obviously, there's kind of no substitute for visiting a physical exhibit physically, but if you can't go at all, going virtually is 100 times better than photographs. So yeah, this I feel like is a really wonderful um, stake in the ground forward on that dream, or of proving out the how beautiful and successful that type of expression could be. And I know there are a lot of people that would love to make virtual exhibits, and that the technology available is always improving. So I dream that we will be able to use this as a first step in expanding Meow Wolf exhibits beyond the walls into all the mediums.
I want to. Don's going to tag, but I want to also point out that first part of your answer. I don't think that was niche at all. I think a lot of people in creative, particularly in folks that are becoming companies, absolutely need to hear that. And that line you have about making sure you're in the same book for starters, let alone like the same page, just that you're starting off there so you can find the page. That's a great line. So you, because you said it way better than I just tried to recreate it. Like, it was really, really solid, and something that I want to kind of race and take to my students. So not niche at all, Caity. Don.
It's just so important. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
just so important that you're not fighting your collaborators.
Yeah.
You got to be at least looking in the same direction.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel like I could talk about that piece of this forever. So
Oh, let's set up a time to do that. I'm not even joking. Don.
uh, as an art director at Mighty Coconut, we are a miniature golf game, but I think we're also a Trojan horse. And I think on a certain level, we're trying with each of our new courses to give permission to other VR games, certainly, and
Mm.
other creatives, and even to Meow Wolf, to say, even within the strict limitations of this medium, you can transport people to other places very effectively. And I think the fact that it's a multiplayer experience, that you can actually affect the lives of individuals by what the context is of that human interaction. I hope that I think that our collaboration with Meow Wolf hopefully is giving a really good solid foot into the virtual world for Meow Wolf to dream about how else it's going to affect people and bring people into their exhibits through VR and AR and other mediums. But we're continuing with every course and way into 2024 and 25, working really, really hard to not only give you a wonderful miniature golf experience, but take you places you never thought you could go and share that experience with other people while you're there.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to taking people through Walkabout's Meow Wolf course, as much as I look forward to like when I get to take people through a Meow Wolf itself. And I'm definitely looking forward to whatever y'all have cooking up next from the mini golf factory in the virtual cloud space. So not like the cloud architect, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, the coffee's no longer working. Lucas, Caity, Don, thank you all so much for being on the show today, and looking forward to the next time I get to talk to y'all.
Thanks.
Thank you
Thanks
for having us.
I was just thinking how much I really love my job, how grateful I am that this gets to be my job, that I get to talk to folks about their work and about how it came together. There's nothing I love more. So thank you to Caity and Don and Lucas for being our guests on the show this week. Thanks to everyone who backs the show so that I can keep on doing this, that we bring this to you. It's an honor and a privilege to get to do this. And it sounds like hyperbole, particularly because I make it sound like hyperbole when we're like, Walkabout's our favorite thing to do. And like, I get, the carnival barker voice going, but like legitimately, one of the great joys that I get is to go through a Walkabout level with a friend for the first time. I got to do that with Jacob Patterson, who's listening right now. Jacob, of course, of Think Tank Gallery, in LA back in the day. He's out, wandering the earth like Kane in Kung Fu right now. Not entirely true, but he's somewhere in the Midwest. And I got to do that last week. Pulled Jacob in. And he was, I mean, he's a big fan of Meow Wolf as well. But he had only recently got a headset and only a couple days before done Walkabout, and was blown away by Walkabout itself. And just getting to watch him go through and some of the trippy moments inside the thing, it was wonderful. And there's some other friends I'm looking forward to doing that with soon. And I'm really grateful the way Walkabout handles it, in that, someone might go like, I don't know about this Meow Wolf thing, but if you are a big Meow Wolf fan and, you have Walkabout owning friends, you can just take them in yourself and they'll become a big fan as well. So it's a lovely, lovely thing. And I'm just glad we have it, and it brings me joy. And I encourage you, if you've got a headset, even if the headset might just be like, well, I don't really touch it anymore. If you've never hooked it up with Walkabout, then go do that. And indeed, in January, it will not be the first weekend, because Worlds in Play is going down January. I think it's 3rd through 7th. With both, there's workshops and there's a summit going on that's happening at Arizona State University in Mesa, Arizona. I'll actually be there along with a number of other folks that from the broader community. And it's a conference about, play and the arts. And so that's happening then. Jake Pinholster and Scarlett Kim are putting that together. I'm going to be running game night. I'll put a link in the show notes. So that's going on. We talked about it weeks ago on the show, right? Like that Scarlett was on to talk about it, but it won't be that week. We'll be too busy playing other games that week. But let's say like this, we'll do a tourney starting around, pick a date. Let's just go on the calendar here. We will start on Saturday the 13th, and we'll go for 2 weeks. We'll do a tourney. We'll do two rounds inside Meow Wolf. We'll do a little bracket thing. We'll do that inside the NoPro Discord. So this is for members inside the NoPro Discord. And we'll also be starting to introduce some member bonus features then. Let me talk about that for a second. So this whole idea of increasingly closing down who gets access to the newsletter or who gets access to the Discord doesn't sit entirely comfortably with me. I keep on just hoping that I win the lotto and then I don't have to worry about begging for money anymore. And we just make this big and broad. And I just start buying ads, just advertising immersive, as if it was like, the Batman movie in 1989, just like everywhere. There's just the logo and like people are like, what is that? And like, yeah, I mean, let me dream or send me the winning lotto numbers if you're from the future. But the thing, the thing I literally lost my train of thought. What was I trying to say? The tourney, the closing thing said, right. So I don't really like going exclusive. It's against my nature. I'm a public media guy. I believe that information wants to be free. Running around, causing havoc. And when you throw paywalls up, then you get other people, usually better financed people, who come in and throw disinformation around. So what can we do to balance out the need to pay my landlord and the creditors and clear that small business association loan maybe one day before I die? What can we do to balance that stuff out, those needs out, which is to charge money for what we do, with the fact that I want more people inside the ecosystem because that is a good thing. And if I had my druthers, I would be able to generate gift codes, guest codes for each NoPro backer who's been a backer for at least a year as a prize. Not a prize, but as a present. There, present, prize, present. I'm an only child. It's the same thing. I'm on a roll. You may not find it funny, but I find it hilarious. Like, basically, you're all my college students now. I crack jokes at them they don't understand, and I don't want them to understand. It's the joy of making references to like 2 generations down. It's so good. If you have kids, I finally understand. I understand now. I understand. All right, back on track. The point is, if I could just click a button and like be like, okay, you've been a $5 backer for 7 years, you get 7 codes. Hand these out. They will give you. They're for your friends to be on the Discord and to be in the newsletter. That'd be great. Unfortunately, I can't automate that. So I'm going to set up a protocol that probably involves either an Airtable or a Google Sheet, where folks who are Patreon backers will be able, or maybe it'll be through Patreon, can request friends getting added. And then I'm going to have to like keep track of that in a spreadsheet. Don't love that, but give me the holiday break to set it up, and then we'll go from there. And that will play in well into the tournament because folks are going to want to be able to hand those codes over to people, or codes, meaning hand me the person's name and I will manually add them to the Discord, to the newsletter, and then give them a code for the Discord. And this kind of thing will happen. There'll be kind of like an enrollment period every month. And we'll let everybody know. And when and there'll be kind of waves of this. We'll start off by experimenting with the folks who are like, all the folks who give like, $30 or more a month. We'll start off with them. And also there's a lot of codes, and then we'll kind of roll it down. And indeed, it'll be based off of how long has someone been a backer will be how many guest codes that they get. This will be for current backers. Lapsed backers who come back on, though, like you'll be credited, based on however long you have over the years, because we just want more people in the system. We really do. And the hope is that those folks enjoy it, get benefit from it, use it, and then decide they want to hand that over to friends as well, by becoming a paid backer. And there will be more stuff. I got to figure out what it is. I may run some polls and ask people what they want. More things like the Walkabout tourney. We'll maybe do some Racket Club stuff. We'll do some Demio stuff. We'll do other types of game nights. We'll do hangouts in the Discord. There's options. This will not impact the local meetups. We are going to have a meetup in LA on January 22nd at the Roguelike at 7 p.m. So mark your calendars for that. We'll make some noise about that. We'll either pass the hat, or because it was so popular last time, we might do like $5 tickets for that. Or we might do some sort of like, thing where it's like, it's $7, but like $5 for back. I don't know. We might set a reserve this time as opposed to passing a hat, because there were so many people. It might be a little easier for us to do it that way. Haven't quite figured it out. Again, I don't love charging money for all this stuff. But also in LA, if you don't charge money, then people just flake on you. So like, you charge money. It's just the way it goes. Los Angeles, it's just the way it is. What else is there? Okay, so tourney starting on the 13th, and I'm going to put that into the system. So that means we'll be doing signups for the tourney the week of the 7th, 8th, right? So I'm just going to put here, literally putting it in my calendar right now while I do this. Everyone gets to feel like Parker right now, where I just like do things in the calendar or write people emails while I'm like talking to them. Meow Wolf tourney starts. I gotta tell Vince. Vince loves it when we do a Walkabout tourney. Vince meaning Vince Cadlebeck of Meow Wolf. He played in some of our tourneys a couple of years ago. Yeah, we're gonna do that, and I hope to see a bunch of you at Worlds in Play. And we'll talk more about that soon. And there'll be a bunch of interviews happening there. And so you'll hear about how that went. And what else? Next week's episode is going to be our end of the year best moments episode. The team is turning that stuff in over the weekend, and we're recording at the beginning of the week. And then the last weekend of the month, it's going to be the reporter roundtable. Got a bunch of folks lined up to record at least one session, folks from like all over the country and from a bunch of different publications. Always a fun episode that. I'm really curious. Some folks we're talking to the first time. This is going to be a blast. And then setting up some other stuff, looking at what the next few episodes are going to be into the new year. But yeah, that's it for now. This is the quiet version of the dismount. Noah, go do the credits. The associate producer of No Proscenium is Parker Sella. Music for No Proscenium is by Chris Porter of the Speakeasy Society and Solar, the podcast. Special thanks to Siobhan O'Loughlin for voicing our intro. And just generally being awesome. The NoPro podcast is written, edited, hosted, produced, messed up, chopped, and screwed by yours truly. What was that? Why did I put that? I'm Noah Nelson. And until next time, I'll see you at the show.